What is happening, people? This is the Monday Mashup, the football show. We bring you every single Monday where we review all the Premier League action from the weekend. We talk about the latest headlines coming out of the world of football, and we chat about anything that you good subscribers and people in the chat would like to chat about. So feel free to fire any questions about me to get my opinion on anything that you want. This is really a show for you, the subscribers, and those people in the chat. And please, if you're in the chat, if you could subscribe to the channel, hit the like button on the video, and of course, hit that bell notification to be notified when we go on live. This is your Monday mashup. We are going to start with a Premier League review, and we'll talk down through all the results from the weekend. We'll talk even about the Carabao Cup. Huge win for Man United and Eric Ten Hag yesterday, as the progress there seems to continue, and it's undeniable the job that Eric Ten Hag is doing at Man United. Really looking potent at the moment. Henry Ray Baker channel is in the chat tonight. How are you, Henry? Evening to you, my friend. Hope everything is going well. Like I said as well, subscribe to Henry's channel as well, and subscribe to all the channels in the chat that come in. Always support and share the love. Tough weekend for us, Henry. Not only were we blunt against Crystal Palace, but also we had to sit back and watch our old arch enemy and rival pick up the first bit of silverware of the season, which was a tough watch, but not something that we didn't expect really. But we'll talk about the Carabao Cup after. Henry's thinking of quitting. Don't do that, Henry. Stick with it. Stick with it, my man. Stick with it. It's a tough road that we travel, but together we'll keep it strong and support each other and stuff like that. So stay with it, Henry. Stay with it. It's not easy. Takes a lot of time and stuff like that. Takes a lot of hard work and effort. At times, people don't realize the effort that goes into bringing these shows on a weekly basis and stuff like that. A lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of prep. We don't want to just come on here and talk nonsense. We want to talk football facts. We want to get opinion, but we want it to be of a high quality. So let's start. Let's start with our Premier League review of the action at the weekend. And we start with nowhere else than Fulham 1, Wolves 1. Down at Craven Cottage. Probably a big result for Wolves, but they probably not a great. Wolves wouldn't be happy going away from this. They somewhat controlled the game in large sections and stuff like that. Got themselves ahead in 23 minutes with Sarabia, the goal, the assist by Raul Jimenez. But Solomon cropped up with the equaliser in 64 minutes, and then the game kind of pittered out. They created chances, both teams. But probably a draw was kind of a fair result. But Wolves again getting their nose ahead, and pivotal for them, especially at the moment in the predicament they find themselves in, down near the relegation zone and stuff like that. So every game for them now super important. I just did a preview for the Wolves game on Wednesday. Dave from Dave's LFC chats came on, and Kyle Gunnar Walsh came on as well, Arsenal fan, to give us kind of a neutral opinion, looking from the outside in on Liverpool and stuff like that. Fantastic chat with both boys. We spoke about lineups, we spoke about our predictions, we spoke about the problems at Liverpool, Jurgen Klopp, and all various things and stuff like that. And it was nice to hear from Kyle as well to give his opinion on Liverpool. I know if he wasn't an Arsenal fan, he'd be a Liverpool fan. I know his dad's a big Liverpool man as well. So let's see what happens. Henry in the chat. I'm not in the right headspace due to abuse I'm getting from fans. Henry, don't worry about that. Just you pie that off. You don't take any of that with you. Anything that is said in a chat or anything like that, you don't bring that with you once the show is over. You park that. It's part of what's going on in the show and stuff like that. It's, don't get into that kind of thing. There's poisonous situations out there that will always detract you. Look, we've had sections of the Liverpool fan base this season talking about if you didn't live in Liverpool, you're not a real Liverpool fan, and all sorts of stuff like that. But look, it's water off a duck's back. Don't get into it. And he goes, I was listening via LFC going, didn't think much of it, but did think about watching highlights on Match of the Day, but couldn't be bothered. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, most people didn't look sure. Even I went on, I was chatting to Dave in his chat when he was doing his post match reaction and stuff like that. And we started, Henry, you won't believe it, we started talking about 70s, 80s, and 90s movies and TV shows and stuff like that, which made up the vast bulk of the show. And actually, it was quite therapeutic after such a bad result. And the thing about it is, what I would say to you is, after a bad result like that and after a bad performance and stuff like that, as the old slogan goes, it's really, really good to talk and really, really important from that point of view. Um, that you get stuff off your chest and you don't let it linger and carry it with you and stuff like that. Because I know going through a season like this, where the last few seasons we've been so used to, um, the good times and trophies and big results and huge moments and all this kind of thing, to now be at such a low ebb and stuff like that. And, if you're a Liverpool fan, as long as I am, and I know you are, Henry, as well, we've seen the highs, we've seen the lows, we've seen the good times, the great times, the bad times and stuff like that. But you can't carry it with you. I always say that when you get to these lows, it makes the good times so much more sweeter and tastier. So don't let it get you like that, pal. It's not worth it. At the end of the day, we're all Liverpool fans. We love Liverpool Football Club and stuff like that. But just, you know, don't be worried about the toxicity that's there at the moment. That will pass. We will bounce back. Players will be signed. Players will be moved on. Jurgen will get us back to the promised land again. There's no doubt about it. We have faith in him. So that was Fulham versus Wolves kicking off the weekend on Friday. As we know, Newcastle and Brighton was postponed. Everton 0, Aston Villa 2, which was an interesting game. That got a little bit nasty as well. We had Ollie Watkins with a penalty on 63 minutes to open the scoring, and then Buendia put it to bed on 81 minutes. This was a huge win for Aston Villa, especially off the back of that Arsenal result. Emery was very disappointed in that. We seen him going in on Emi Martinez and all for going up for the corner and stuff. But yeah, it was a huge result for Aston Villa, especially at Goodison as well, which is a tough place to go. As bad as Everton have been this season and stuff like that, Goodison is it's a tough place to go to come out of with a result like that. So it was massive for them. But yeah, 2-0 win. Emery much happier with that. But I still have concerns that Jordan Pickford tackle on Ollie Watkins. Just reminded me so much of the Van Dijk one as well. And I just think, if you're a manager of Everton Football Club, and the height of respect for someone like Sean Dyche there, he should be pulling Pickford to one side and going, what the hell is that? What are you doing? You know what I mean? There's no room for that. I just think it's when you're going in there and you're actually going to try and do someone. I think a conversation needs to be had, and I just thought it was really bad. And I was delighted, not because I'm a Liverpool man. I was delighted that Aston Villa got the result. Next up was a huge one. This was like a relegation 6-pointer, as they say, and it was Leeds versus Southampton at Ellen Road. A huge result needed for Leeds. Javi Garcia going in there, taking over the mantle, but up stepped the boy Firpo with the only goal in the game in 77 minutes. This was a huge win for Leeds. It's just unbelievable. They've had such a weird season, Leeds. They've really struggled under Marsh and stuff like that. And it's good to see them getting a result at Ellen Road and the fans up there and all having something to cheer about and stuff like that. Big goal for Firpo on 77 minutes, sealing the deal and getting the 3 points. Southampton, again, still in serious trouble. Up next, a game that everyone wants to talk about. This was Leicester versus Arsenal. News coming out that Maddison wasn't going to make the game was huge news for Arsenal at the time. But up stepped the boy Martinelli with a goal on 46 minutes to put Arsenal one ahead. After Trossard had a goal ruled out by VAR, but what a beautiful finish from Leandro Trossard on 27 minutes. I was sure it was a goal. I couldn't believe it was ruled out. I'm sure he was going mad over it because he took his goal lovely, but he did get the assist later on for Martinelli. Lovely goal from the boy. And Arsenal came away with the points, a big, huge, massive massive 3 points at Leicester. Could have easily been a draw, but did the business there to keep the gap going. Next game up, West Ham versus Nottingham Forest. West Ham 4, Nottingham Forest 0. This is not something that I had predicted in the Thursday Tier Talk show. I thought this would be quite a blunt game, and I reckon it could have been like a low-scoring draw. I looked at West Ham in the previous game, and they were so dire and so blunt up front. I didn't expect this at all. I thought Mikel Antonio was really poor in that game and stuff like that. But up steps the man, Danny Ings. This game was trundling along until the 70th minute at 0-0. Danny Ings with 2 quick-fire goals on 70 and 73. Topped off with Declan Rice, I think, on 78. And then Mikel Antonio rounded it out on 85. And good to see West Ham picking up a win like that. A massive win against Nottingham Forest. I'm sure Cooper was perplexed at the end of it. He probably wasn't expecting it either. But Moyes certainly was delighted with the result. And he had mentioned that there was some good results coming and stuff like that once he got players back and various little things like that. So a huge result for West Ham, especially looking at the predicament they were in as well. To win 4-0 was massive for them. Something that we weren't surprised at, Man City 4, or Bournemouth 1, Man City 4. We kind of expected Man City to get back to winning ways. And an interesting mix of goal scorers. Julian Alvarez on 15 minutes picking up his goal. That guy coming in this season for Man City has been really good in picking up goals. Haaland got his goal on 29. Phil Foden on 45. At that stage, the game was run. It was as a contest. And Mayfam with an OG on 51. And then, of course, Lerma got the consolation on 83 minutes. I'm sure Bournemouth would have been looking at this, trying to be a little bit competitive. They have been competitive in recent weeks, picking up results and points. But this is obviously a step too far for them. Man City would be a real tough one. And Man City back to winning ways, keeping the pressure on Arsenal at the top of the table. And then came the 7:45 game or the 8 o'clock game or whatever it was. Crystal Palace versus Liverpool, and it's quite frankly 2 hours of my life I will never get back. Liverpool so poor, showed up stale, dull, lethargic. Spoke about it on the match reaction. Somewhat spoke about it in the preview today for Wolves. Just too many players there at the moment, just not performing at any level at all. Crystal Palace with a depleted side as well. No Saha, SA on the bench, MacArthur on the bench. But still overran us at times. Jordan Ayew was made look really good at times in the game. They had a couple of chances. Trent, although trying to push forward and create stuff, leaving that space at the back defensively for Aloisi and all. So it was just so poor. Just a poor game, and then the talk afterwards as well about keeping a clean sheet and we have the players to score and all this. It was just a poor result all the way around. Did nothing, especially with Spurs, and we're going to talk about Spurs next on Sunday against Chelsea. Just so poor in trying to close that gap in the top 4 race. But looking like a real stretch of miles away at the moment. Wolves coming up on Wednesday, and then the huge match on Sunday against our rivals, Man United. Could be a tough week for the Reds this week, but let's see. We went into Sunday then, and of course a lot of the focus would have been on the Carabao Cup final, Manchester United versus Newcastle. But the little match, as I say, of a London derby, Tottenham entertaining Chelsea at the new White Hart Lane. The game in the first half was kind of a little bit sort of disruptive, broken up and stuff like that. A lot of players going down injured, a lot of various things happening in the game, and just stop start. And it was a horrible game initially in the first half to watch. Second half, though, straight away, first minute comes alive. Skip with an absolute thunderbolt. Some would say that Kepa might have been a little bit better for, but it was a heck of a strike by the boy. And then Kane on 82 minutes wrapped up the points as only he does from a corner, I think it was, making it 2-0 to Spurs, heaping pressure, more pressure on Graham Potter, who was already in trouble based on selection. Uh, Apparently, during the week, his family and his children and all had been receiving death threats from absolute scumbags who can't even begin to call themselves football fans. But certainly, it's getting very close to Potter's time at Chelsea. I spoke to Darren on the Thursday tier talk about it. He believes that Graham will be given the time that he needs. I think an exit potentially against Dortmund in the Champions League would seal the deal in relation to Graham Potter's time at Chelsea. It's such a weird one as well because such an abundance of riches available to him. But just Darren has said it before, still a little bit imbalanced and still a little bit weird to try and figure out what's needed there at Chelsea to pull them together as a team, to be working as a unit forward and back and stuff like that. A lot of big players in there as well, but they just don't seem to be playing for each other, if you like. They seem to be playing for themselves more so than the team. But certainly a lot of work for Potter to figure out between now and the Dortmund game in the Champions League. But yeah, you would fear for Graham Potter's future as Chelsea manager. And then the question is, if they do pull the trigger on that, who do they bring in? Who's out there? Who's available of that ilk that would have to come in to start managing that team? And, you know, what happens then? Do more players have to go out? More players have to come in? It's just this continual thing. Ian has often spoke about it on the Chelsea Roar and stuff like that. Check out his channel there. He's spoken about how there's such an imbalance in the side in terms of those players there now from 4-5 managers maybe now, all trying to mesh together and stuff like that. So really, really difficult for them. We'll take some comments before we go into the Carabao Cup. So we will start. Where are we? I have to go way back here. Good few comments coming in tonight. Ian, I was in there. How are you, Ian? What's the crack, Niall? All good, my friend. Hope you're doing really, really well. And Henry's back in again. I have a podcast at 8 p.m. when I will be previewing the second leg of the Champions League, LFC versus Real. Nice one, Henry. Nice one. Be interesting to watch that now and see, get your thoughts on it. Can we create another piece of magic for one night potentially? Who knows? And podcast tomorrow at 8 for me talking about that. Yeah, absolutely. We'll check that out for you, brother. And Coyle's back in. Niall, you're like the Terminator. You just keep coming with the material. Big up to you. A pure legend of a man. Now, bother, Coyle. I always do the Monday show. I was getting this one out of the way because I have a few commitments. I was getting the Wolves preview out of the way because I have a few commitments tomorrow on other channels. And we do a little bit of pro wrestling podcasting as well. So I'll have to do that as well with my brother in arms, Ian, on Dynamo's Dozen. So it's non-stop at the moment. These are busy weeks for us. 2 games to cover for Liverpool this week as well. 2 previews, 2 match reactions, player ratings, all that good stuff, as well as the Thursday tier talk and the Monday mashup. Dynamo's Dozen. It just never ends. It just keeps coming. Now, shout out to everyone in the chat. Absolutely. Henry, hi, Ian. Big up, Ian, from Kyle. How are you doing, Henry? And Kyle back in as well. Henry, big up, mate. Nice to see you. Love that. Love this community we're building here at the moment. People supporting each other and stuff like that. Never always really about the team that you follow. More about your love of the game. Henry, so sad about Stephen. Yeah, absolutely. R.I.P. Stephen as well. Yeah, sad Arsenal fan there. He appeared on a lot of the channels and stuff like that. Was a content creator and stuff like that. But very, very, very sad news. And Kyle sure is, Henry, absolutely. And Henry, I like spending time with the Gooners, Ray and Co. Yeah, absolutely. And Joanne's back in. Hello again. How are you, Joanne? It's like we're never off this. Sure, we're not. And Kyle's back in. All good, lads. Kyle, hi, Joe. And Henry, yes, Kyle, especially that, yeah. And then we've got Eno there as well. Let's all share the love of football. Yeah, absolutely. And Henry, big thumbs up. Del Boy Gunner in the house. Big up, Niall. How are you, Del? Check out Del's channel, Del Boy Gunner TV, as well as Kyle's and everyone else's. Kyle's channel, Kyle Walsh Gunner. Absolutely cracking channels out there. The realest of fans and stuff like that. Loved the reaction there the other day, boys, to the Leicester game and stuff like that. Cracking, and a big win for you boys as well. Del, I'm also loving that League of Ireland content that you're churning out there as well. Absolutely cool. Really, really loving it. And Coyle's in there. Big up Del, boy, the legend himself. I'm looking forward as well, lads. I think you was about heading over to the Everton game this week, aren't you? And if you are, I'm really looking forward to some of the vlogs and the reactions and all that kind of stuff. Some quality content coming our way from Coyle and Del this week. I think they're heading over to the Everton game as far as I know. And Henry Brain fried, yeah, absolutely. And Ian Weiss back home on Wednesday, yeah, Ian. I say you're really looking forward to that, Ian, aren't you? I think she's been away now for about a month, Ian, hasn't she? And Del, what's the crack, Coyle? Are we doing cup predictions tonight? You're welcome to drop your predictions in there if you want. I haven't looked at the cup predictions. I've really been focusing just on the league games. But fire away, Joanne. If you want to drop your cup predictions in there, I shall definitely react to them. That's our comments for the moment. Let's talk about the Carabao Cup. Well, first of all, I'll tell you what, we'll look at the league table. Let's see what it's done. What all that has done to the league table, basically, is you have Arsenal there at the moment, sitting pretty on top. Man City going close as well, and United just off with a game in hand on City. Arsenal still with a game in hand on Man City. Huge pivotal game that will be. Spurs in the top 4 on 45, and Newcastle in 5th with 41. Obviously didn't play in the league this week, neither did United with the Carabao Cup final. Liverpool moved up a spot with that draw to 7th on 36. And then you cruise right down into the bottom half of the table. Chelsea, obviously, I think staying in 10th on 31 points with that loss to Spurs. Villa closing in on Chelsea. Crystal Palace are way off. Then you go down into the bottom half of the table. What have we got there? 18 at the bottom, I think it is. Is it 18 or is it 19? From my eyes, I'd look off full screen and get that one. Boom, 18. Lovely job. Southampton at the bottom on 18 points. Not so much adrift yet because it's so tight down there down the bottom. You can see it there between 18 and let's say where are we going up as far as 12. Crystal Palace 27. So 9 points separating the bottom 7 sides, 8 sides, whatever it is. So really, really tight down there. A lot of chopping and changing. Big win for Leeds at the weekend, taking them out of the bottom half. Of course, Everton with that loss against Aston Villa, dropping them back into the bottom half, the bottom 3 spots for relegation. Bournemouth obviously struggling as well. Southampton as well, struggling. Hard to know at this stage even. Hard to pick who's going to go down. Hard to know who's going to go down. And Coyle's in the comments here. Unfortunately, Niall, unforeseen circumstances hit me, so I won't be going Wednesday. Delboy and his son, I think, are going instead. It'll be brilliant for the lads. I have to stay here. I've no option. Not a bother, pal. Sorry to hear that you're missing out on it, but I'm sure Del and the young lad, they always create quality content as well. Love some of that stuff that they put together. And Henry's back in the comments as well. Do you think that teams playing in the EFL Cup should play midweek as well? Because teams wouldn't want fixture pile up. That's an interesting one. I don't know. See, it's very difficult, Henry, to sort of tell this season as well because it's been such a bastard of a season, really, in terms of fixtures and stuff like that. We kind of started the league early this year. Then we had the World Cup break, lots of stuff going on. The Queen passed away, fixtures were cancelled. There was a lot of stuff mishmashed around this season, so it's really hard to tell. I think now if you're at the top end of stuff, especially in the Premier League and stuff like that, your expectation now should be that you're going to be playing at least 2 games a week, if not more, depending on how the fixtures fall. And I think with some of the plans that they have out there, especially for European football and stuff like that, I think we could see even more games being played. And I could also see a situation where off seasons are way shortened. I think we're not too far away from not having any downtime in football and top teams and stuff like that being forced to have much bigger squads to play right through nearly, I think. I don't think these players now get any downtime. I think what do they get these days? Handful of weeks before they're back in pre-season, and it's a long, trawling season for them. Especially if you look at Liverpool, Henry last season played every single minute of every single game. Literally had, what, 3 weeks off, and then was back in pre-season and on the pre-season tours and the demands of sponsors and everything else that goes on there. You do not get a break from it whatsoever. And then Henry, because I was thinking, if you don't complete your fixtures, don't you get docked points or fined? Yeah, well, I think these days all the fixtures get completed anyway, one way or another. They just have to get them done, don't they? So I can't imagine. I think if you write off a game and stuff like that, yeah, there would be a dim view taken of it. I think they discussed that a lot during the COVID season and stuff like that and all. But I think everything will get played one way or another. It has to be, really. Right, so that's your sum up on your Premier League review of the weekend. The movers and the shakers, the delights and the disappointments. But we're going to talk about the Carabao Cup final. We have to talk about what an unbelievable job Eric Ten Hag has done with Man United. The turnaround from where they were last season, which was, dare I say, as low at times as you can get, in terms of confidence, in terms of play, in terms of results, in terms of everything. They were just shot. I have a similar feeling this season as a Liverpool fan. It's like we've traded places, which sickens me. But it was an unbelievable, to see them lift that trophy, the first trophy of the season and stuff like that. And I kind of looked at the game and I was thinking, I thought Newcastle would give a good go at this and stuff like that. And look, I looked at the game yesterday. Great goal by Casemiro. What can we say about Casemiro? Absolutely phenomenal. What a signing he's been. A lot of people talking about he only came for the money and he's the old man and all this kind of thing. He is a phenomenal player, and he is the heartbeat and the engine of that team at the moment. And not only that, he's a unique kind of player insofar as he has this uniqueness that he can elevate players around him as well. So if you look at how well he's playing, look at how good Luke Shaw looks at the moment. Look at Varane, Martinez at the back with him and stuff like that. Then you look at Rashford, Sancho's after coming back. They have so much good stuff going for them at the moment. I spoke to some of our WhatsApp group today and some Man United fans and stuff like that, and it's they still don't want to talk about the title race. I think United are bang slap in the middle of a title race. Dare I say, if they were to beat West Ham on Wednesday, I think in the FA Cup, I think they could be staring down the barrel of a treble or a quadruple potentially. I think in the Europa League, I think the only team in there that can stop them potentially, I think, is Arsenal. And I think both those teams would fancy over two legs against each other. It would be intriguing to see how it goes if it was the case. It'd be kind of cool if it was a United Arsenal final in the Europa League, which would be interesting. But certainly the goal by Casemiro yesterday was a cracking goal. And then Rashford's goal, kind of a deflection up over Karius. Karius, I have to say as well, I wanted to point out as well, came in for a lot of flack at Liverpool, affected him greatly in terms of his mental health and stuff like that. But he accounted for himself very well yesterday. He made a number of really good saves and did himself really well yesterday, even though he was on the losing side. But United ran out champions, 2-0. I heard today that Rashford was given the goal. So he's on a tear at the moment. I suppose when you talk about Eric Ten Hag and you talk about Man United, you talk about such a turnaround from last season, but you also have to talk about the turnaround in the individual players. And you look at Rashford, and you look at Rashford last year was absolutely abysmal. There was talk at one stage that United were going to sell him. There was talk that he wanted to leave. he was being dropped, he was being subbed, he was being benched, all these kind of things. He is a new player this season. He's been absolutely phenomenal. And again, as a Liverpool fan, it kills me to say this, but you can't deny what's in front of your face. And certainly Man United are playing really, really well at the moment. Um, and it wouldn't shock me if they pick up a number of bits of silverware this season as well. Ten Hag has them humming. There seems to be a real good feeling around the club. You seen it even yesterday where he was dancing with the two boys with uh, Martinez and Anthony. He was dancing with them, the boys at the flags on them and stuff like that. So there's a real good mood around that club at the moment. Fergie was involved. I believe Fergie came into the dressing room and all that kind of stuff. So that feeling has returned at Man United. And I did say it, and I said it before, that Man United would rise up again to become a powerful force within football. You can't keep them down forever. And that's what they have done. So congratulations to Man United on winning the Carabao Cup. Hopefully you don't win anything else, but I can't say that hand on my heart that it'll happen, because I think you're there or thereabouts on some of this stuff as well. So let's take some of the comments after that. People probably can't believe a Liverpool fan here on a podcast talking this way, but it's undeniable. Joanne's in with our FA Cup predictions for the 5th round. Stoke and Brighton 2-2. Interesting, Joanne. You're rolling out the predictions these days. Leicester 0, Blackburn 2. Yeah, Blackburn beat. I had QPR on my bet the other day, Joanne, and Blackburn beat them. I think it was 3-1 in the end. I don't know what I was thinking putting QPR in the bet. I think I must have had a brain fart or something like that. But yeah, that would be a big one. I don't know, Leicester. They could have a big say in the cup this year. Henry back in. I just keep remembering when we had 2 games, very one after the other, playing in the WCC, and we had the Villa Cup game back in 2019. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that was a very, very strange one. That was him. I think, to be honest, the situation there, Henry, it was more a kind of a political statement than it was anything else between the FA and Liverpool and stuff like that was going on. We should have been never forced to play that game with the kids. It was absolutely stupid. But these are the things you face, Henry. These are the challenges you face when you're successful on a number of fronts. That's all I will say. And wouldn't we love to be facing that now, Henry? Fulham 1, Leeds 2. Big win away from home from Leeds. If that happens, Joanne, interesting. You're pushing them out tonight. And Bristol City 2, Man City 1. Jeez, Joanne, if you have a few quid on this and these come true, like Dazzler says, you'll probably retire off it. That would be awesome, Joanne. There you go. It wouldn't surprise me United winning the league. Yeah, I said that today to the guys. They don't want to talk. They don't want to talk about title race at all at the moment. And I can understand that being kind of out of it for a long time, really, now at this stage. And obviously, winning the Carabao Cup is significant, and that could absolutely bounce them on to better things. But not much talk from the United fan base at the moment about the title race and stuff like that. It leads me to believe that there's a kind of a confidence in there that it may or may not happen. Let's see, but they just don't want to show their hand too early. Ian's and Paul Bradshaw looking down from the heavens on Saturday in full support of his favourite team. Yeah, absolutely. Fair play. Always thinking of Paul. Rest in peace, my man. And Ted is in from Retrotainment. Check out his channel as well. Fergie came to the dressing room but didn't try to inject himself on the celebrations out in public. Yeah, absolutely. I don't know whether the heart, and everything else would have stood up to the dancing and stuff like that. I don't think Fergie be that guy either, you know. He'd be of the Keno ilk and stuff like that. You know, what are these lads doing? And Henry, I know, Niall, it was a cover up or cock up. Either way, we were forced to play them other teams. Gets it easy, in my opinion. Yeah, absolutely. You're spot on there, Henry. Absolutely. And Ted back in. Don't think we'll win the league. City have hit back in their stride here, and I think Arsenal are grinding out those results. I think they are, Ted. And I get those points, and I understand where you're coming from with that, but I just think there's a swagger and a confidence about United again. And the thing about it is, what I'm looking at United in terms of that confidence, that Ten Hag, and that bonding and bringing that team together. Like if you look at Casemiro and how hard he works, front to back, he's blocking everything at the back, he's supporting the defenders, he's getting forward, he's creating and scoring goals. He's everywhere on the pitch. He's like two or three players, and he's inspiring all those other players around him to lift their game to a different level. And I just think, I'm telling you now, if you give me 50 quid to put on a potential league winner, I think I'd throw it on United. Well, man, Cheap Heat Productions podcast, Morris in the chat. Any Potter news? Another great result. I don't think there's any Potter news. I think they're still backing him. I probably think at this stage there's a number of clauses in the termination of his contract, and I think they're probably waiting for those clauses to kick. I think something is related to being involved in the Champions League, and some of it is related to mathematically not being able to get top four. And I think that takes a serious wedge off the compensation, potentially, if they want to pull the trigger. Also with Bowley as well, I don't think Bowley's in a hurry to maybe pony up and admit that he made a mistake and stuff like that. The other side of it as well is they may be surveying the managerial situation at the moment. And seeing who they want to put in there and stuff like that, because you're going to need a really strong manager potentially go in there to manage those players that have gone in there, and of course oversee the continual rebuild of Chelsea at the moment. So it'll be an interesting one. But yeah, that's the latest news. Yeah, it was some result and stuff like that, and just a tough one for Chelsea at the moment. They're going through a tough time. Nothing will happen to City, I think, and even if it does, it won't happen until the end of the season. Yeah, the funny thing about it, Henry, is it might be, assuming anything is proven, because it's all allegation at the moment and alleged, but it'll be interesting to see what happens if it is proven. And I dare say, Henry, I think we won't see anything until the end of next season. I think that's how long they'll drag it on for with the legal issues and all that kind of stuff. Eno's in the chat. Morris is in the chat. Good man yourself. Morris is always here, my good man. Ted back in again. Who's out there if they get rid of Potter is the question. Nobody jumps out. The main one for me that jumps out is probably, would they take Poch in there, who's available and is kind of biding his time. Zinedine Zidane, I'm sure, is probably available at this stage. I know he's given interviews before about potentially managing in England as well. It's not ideal from that he doesn't particularly want it. But that Chelsea job is a huge job as well. And I know he was holding out potentially for the French job, but with Deschamps extending and also his treatment by the French FA as well was absolutely deplorable. I think for him to manage the French team is a long, long way off now at this stage, with the distance they've put between themselves and having to apologise and all that kind of stuff. So Chelsea might be appealing to him. And look, let's make no mistake about it. I know we've had conversations on the show about the leagues around the world and stuff like that. But if you're a top level manager out there, you want to manage in the Premier League at that high level, especially with a Chelsea at the moment with plenty of money. A huge rebuild on the cards, and some quality players have come in, even though they look a bit disjointed. There's a serious squad of players there, and the blend between what they bring through and who they sign could be very tempting to a Zinedine Zidane, and I'm sure the Chelsea fans would open their arms at the moment for Zinedine Zidane. Morris was out with the Chelsea Roar Friday. He said they should stick with Potter for at least another 4 years. I think that conversation, if that conversation did happen, and I doubt very much it happened in that way. I don't know which one of you pair was having the more shots of Jaeger bombs or something like that, but I know Ian was he was very disappointed in he mentioned Graham Potter and his family receiving death threats and stuff like that, and like all of us, he was of the opinion that it should never get to that point, ever, that these are just scumbag, stupid people. and not true football fans. But I think he is still of the opinion. I think, like most Chelsea fans, I think he's of the opinion that like Potter does have to go, that he's not the answer at Chelsea, and that he doesn't see him turning it around. That the stats are very similar to his Brighton stats. He has a wealth of talent available to him, but confidence, disjointment, trying to figure out his best 11 um, has been a real struggle for him. And he has moved to a side where there is an expectation of success, as opposed to a side that maintaining your Premier League status was a sign of success, albeit Brighton were a very good team and a tough team at times to beat. But since he has left Brighton as well, you've seen that Brighton have kicked on another stage. They're scoring a lot more goals, I think, than during Potter's time there. And this is the big issue at the moment at Chelsea at the moment. They just can't put the ball in the back of the net. They can't get the goals that they need. They don't seem to have a striker there, although Aubameyang is there. But obviously, for one reason or another, he hasn't been around at Potter. Either doesn't fancy him, or maybe he's probably going to move on in the summer or something like that. But they're very, very blunt at the moment. And if they don't fix up pretty quick, things are going to get quite toxic and all. I heard some of the Chelsea content creators dropping videos and stuff like that, talking about Chelsea potentially being in a relegation battle. I went, good Lord, stop talking nonsense. Morris, laugh out loud. Yeah, absolutely, Morris. I knew that. Yeah, neither of you would have had enough drink to be talking that way. We might want them there for the next 4 years. Absolutely. Aim back in. I'll be getting that 4-6 sound. Look forward to it. Yeah, they're the business. I know you'll love it. And cheapy. No, never a need for that. Like to see Gareth Southgate get the Chelsea job. Oh, good Lord, can you imagine? Maybe they could do a swap, because maybe Potter's more suited to the England job. Interesting. Ted's back in the comments. Chelsea are creating chances, though, is the thing. Potter can't put the ball in the net for them. Yeah, no, I get that, Ted. And look, we're very similar to Liverpool at the moment. We're so blunt and style and stuff like that. And it's not like we don't have players who can score goals. But I just think, I don't know. Are you thinking, is that comment? Are you thinking that maybe Potter's lost the dressing room? Are you thinking they're not playing for him or something like that? Or are you just thinking that there's issues there within the squad, or within the setup, or within the formation, or the tactics? Because certainly Raheem Sterling can score goals. Certainly Kai Havertz could score goals. We know Aubameyang can score goals. Mason Mount has cropped up with goals. So there's goals around the park there. Mudryk has come in. I know he's going to have to settle and take time, but there's certainly goals in that team there. I don't know. It's just I can't put my finger on Chelsea. It's very similar to Liverpool. Look, there's just so many things there that are wrong. I mean, the difference between Chelsea and Liverpool is Chelsea are on their rebuild. They have signed and spent money, and we have reneged on doing that, and that's why we find ourselves with players who are just losing their legs at the moment. But interesting to get your thoughts on that. Let me know if you think Potter, has he lost the dressing room based on what you're thinking there, or you think it's just something else. Henry back in the comments. Chelsea don't have an out-and-out striker, although Havertz is trying. Yeah, they've tried Havertz in a number of positions, Henry, and I think it's to the detriment and the frustration of the player, to be honest. They're trying to crowbar him into a couple of positions that are just not his positions, or playing to his strengths, but they've kind of been forced to, so it's kind of a weird one. Yeah, I don't know. Morris has said before that he thinks Aubameyang, he can score goals and stuff like that, but just even when he's gone in, especially after the Tuchel stuff and things like that, just seemed weird. And I don't know, Aubameyang and Potter doesn't seem to me to be a match. Morris back in. Imagine Graham Potter telling Thiago Silva what to do. Yeah, it's and that's the thing, isn't it? And you kind of you get that at every club, really, don't you? As well, somewhat to a point. It's I suppose you don't get it. You wouldn't get it with an Ancelotti. You wouldn't get it with a Zidane. You don't really get it with a Klopp. You don't get it with a Pep. I suppose there's a certain recognition and there's a level of respect that's there and stuff like that. But yeah, I do. I get your point, Morris. He's walking in there into a very difficult changing room, um, to talk to a number of high level quality players and stuff like that, and trying to sell his version of football to them and stuff like that, which is always pretty difficult. And I get it, what did you make as well of what did you make, Morris, as well of Jorginho's comments that Saka's the best player he ever played with? Little bit of Neil there from Jorginho. I reckon he's not happy with the way his treatment went at Chelsea, but it was an interesting comment that Saka is the best player he ever played with. Interesting. Ted back in. Now, I think there is just an unluckiness in the team at the moment. I think Dazzler said it last week, but once the goals start coming, I think they'll start flowing and they'll go on a winning streak. Yeah. Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is an unluckiness, and I think there's a disjointment, and I think they've had a pile on of injuries and stuff like that with key players. I know people turn around and go, yeah, but all these teams get injuries and stuff like that as well. But like, you're talking about Reece James, you're talking about Chilwell, you're talking about serious players there. N'Golo Kante, big players have gone out for them, and they're trying to come back in, and you can kind of see that with the time they've been out. Reece is kind of struggling to get back up to where he should be. Ben is struggling to get back up to where he should be, and N'Golo Kante hasn't showed up yet, although he's kind of back training as far as I know. But it will take him time to adjust, and will he be able to affect the Chelsea team in the last couple of months of the season as he gets back up to match speed and stuff like that and all. The midfield has been quite fluid at times. Thiago Silva's partners have been quite fluid at times. So there's been a huge adjustment where Chelsea, they kind of haven't. It'd be interesting to know, and I haven't really looked at it. I wonder have they had consecutive 11s starting where people kind of get to know each other and stuff like that. Raheem was out with the hamstring, I think it was. But a lot of stuff going on there at the moment. But yeah, look, they have the players and they have the talent to certainly go on a run and score goals. So that's why I was kind of asking the question, like, do you think they've just checked out on Potter, or there's a lack of respect for him there based on his credentials? Maybe, who knows? Morris back in. Potter is shite head. Too big a job for him. You should know that after what United done to David Moyes. Interesting. Yeah, that's interesting parallel there. Actually, that's an interesting comparison as well, isn't it? Yeah, interesting. Fair play, Morris. That's an excellent point there. Yeah, is Potter as bad as Moyes at United? Yeah, it's strange appointments, really, isn't it? When you think about it, like when you think the Chelsea job coming up, and you think Graham Potter, and you even think the United job and the recommendation from Fergie for David Moyes seemed a weird one as well. Man, United's such a huge club, and you can see what's happened since then. And they've Ollie came in and Rania came in, and then you find a real good coach like Eric Ten Hag, and you can see what can be done. Players that you thought were ordinary now are starting to look really, really good. Henry back in. Although I think the amount of new players that Bowley has brought in, it's unsettling. The current players thinking, with this going on, am I out? I don't think so, because I don't think that's been the case. I mean, obviously there's a number of players they want to move on. There's a lot of support there from Mason Mount, but there's also aspects of it saying that they potentially want to move him on. We've seen the banner going across there. I think it was last week about Mason Mount being that Chelsea boy and all that kind of thing. But there's talk of N'Golo Kante moving on. He's probably getting to that stage. Jorginho obviously moving on. There's even been talk this week that Raheem Sterling might move on, and he's only arrived. So there's a lot of talk there at the moment, but I don't think a lot of the players that are underperforming. I mean, there's a lot of new players in there at the moment, and we know Thiago Silva is just gold. Kepa has come back into goal from Mendy, and at times he's looked a little bit suspect again, but at times he's been really, really good. They'll probably have to go out and hire another keeper in the summer. Not sure whether it be a number one or a number two yet. Not too sure. Um, but yeah, I don't think I think they're building a squad there, and I think Bowley's overall plan, I would think, would be to build a squad to the point where they can compete on all fronts and all the competitions that they're in, stuff like that. And these new owners coming in, and especially the managers as well, they know what that takes now. They look at what it takes to be competitive on all fronts and the volume of players you need. And not only that, it's your bench as well. Your bench has to be now a certain quality. You can't have a really good, say, 12 or 13 players and then a 4 or 5 players sitting on your bench. That's just sort of sprinkling of your youth academy and not really up to it. I think those days are very quickly vanishing, and that you nearly have to have a like for like. So when you take that cog out of the wheel, you put a new cog in, and that wheel just keeps on churning. And like the difference is, sort of seamless really at this stage in order to be competitive. But yeah, take your point. Good show, Henry. Uh, Jorginho doing a bit of arse licking. Yeah, potentially, maybe sending a message as well. I know I had the Chelsea fans up in a little bit of roar today, let's say, after they did it. And Ted back in as well. Moyes had a significantly weaker squad, though, as well. He was just poisoned by the fact that Fergie won the league with that team. Yeah, and the fact that I don't really think the Man United fans, similar to the Chelsea fans at the moment with Potter, um, in order for that to kind of work, you kind of have to hit the ground running. You have to do really, really well from the outset. And if it gets a little bit off kilter, um, and you don't kind of talk in a way that would be fitting for the magnitude of the job that you've taken on, it can get very toxic very quickly, and questions get asked. Um, when you're dealing with high level managers like Fergie or Wenger or Jose Mourinho or Pep or Jurgen Klopp, even Jurgen this year, some of the commentary, some of the post match stuff and all is just craziness. You know what I mean? It just makes no sense. But yeah, I think that's the case. But yeah, good shout, Ted. Morris back in. Took Moyes a long time to try find himself again after that job. Could happen, Graham, unless he gets out soon. Yeah, absolutely. I think he had to go off. Didn't he go off to Spain? Where was he at? Real Sociedad, I think it was as well. Needed a tough time there as well, as far as I know. And then he came back, yeah. And look, he's been doing some good stuff with West Ham at times, but I think the problem with West Ham, we just spoke about having that squad to be able to compete. I think West Ham are one team that suffers from that as well. They've been doing really, really well in the Europa League at times, getting to the latter stages and stuff like that. But then it's hampered their league form, that Thursday, Sunday conundrum. Dare I say, dare I talk about it even as a Liverpool fan, it could be us next season, and that would be absolutely awful. But that Thursday, Sunday conundrum of playing football is horrible, absolutely horrible. But I think you're right. I don't know. Let me know, Morris, what you think. My talk is, I think if Dortmund put them out, I think that would be the end. I don't think there's any way back from that, to be honest. Ted back in. Difference between Eric Ten Hag and all the other managers is that he was ruthless in his selection. If you don't want to play his style and moan, you just don't play. Didn't matter who you were. Cough CR7. Yeah, we said already his handling of the players, and not even his handling of the likes of, say, Maguire as the club captain, or Ronaldo, who had to be handled in a certain way, but even his handling of how he's handled Jadon Sancho. If you look at that situation, Jadon Sancho has come back. He's like a different player. He looks like he's enjoying his football. We don't really know the extent of what the issues were, whether we know there was a talk of certain fitness issues and he was working with coaches in Holland and stuff like that. We heard talk of mental issues and all that kind of stuff. Look, it's not easy, I'd imagine, being a player at Man United, representing that club and its lineage and its history and its legacy and stuff like that. And that your expectation is for a certain level of performance, stuff like that. We know Jadon Sancho was an unbelievable player in the Bundesliga, came into Man United, did okay in a difficult situation, but then started looking very ordinary and dropping a lot of clangers and stuff like that. So he was taken out of the firing line at the right time. So Ten Hag has been really, really good in the way he has managed players, even at certain times. and he doesn't suffer fools gladly. So yeah, but spot on, Ted. But and there's a certain respect that comes with that as well. And I think if that's a different manager, if that's a Solskjaer doing that, I don't think it commands that same respect. Because obviously Eric Ten Hag, there's a lot of experience there. He's also come from a winning mentality. He's also brought in some really good key players and stuff like that, especially from that Dutch league. Henry back in. What flavour, Morris? What flavour? Yeah. And Morris back in. I think bring 10th in the league and 2 wins in 16 is a lot more cause to be sacked than losing to Dortmund. It is, but the issue is it's surrounding the termination clauses of the contract. And I think, like, if this was Roman Abramovich, he'd be gone already. There's no doubt about it. He'd be gone already. He probably would have been gone weeks ago, let's be honest. But I think with Bowley, I think there's a certain sort of settling in kind of situation, even for himself. Look, we know with Chelsea at the moment, it's quite toxic. 99% of Chelsea fans, I think, want him gone. They don't believe he's the man for the job. But I think so long as you're still involved in Europe, and you can kind of perform there, and they could go through. They might get a decent draw to go through into the next round and stuff like that. And I think so long as that opportunity is still there, I think if it gets to the stage where they've really nothing to fight for and they're just whittling out the season, I think that's when the change might be made. I think it'll be made before the summer. So I think they'll want to bring in someone who can have a look at the squad and advise Bowley on what else needs to be done, because obviously this summer they won't be spending anywhere near the money that they've spent. So they'll have to be more clinical in the way they spend it. Certainly, if they want to bring in a striker, you look at Lukaku still there, but out on loan. Aubameyang probably not the answer. They're going to have to bring in a top level striker. So who do they go for? And that's going to cost wedge. Henry was replying to the comment of Jorginho ass licking. Oh yeah, what flavour? Yeah, absolutely. Sorry, I skipped one there. Morris, what about the crisis meetings near Friday? Ego or what? Yeah, I think that was I said that actually, and I actually put a short on the channel about it. I thought that was very strange and very out of character. I've just come from a crisis meeting, and I think one of the reporters said to him, "And how did it go?" And he goes, "Well, I'm sitting here and I'm still in the job," or something like that. And I wonder, is he looking for an out himself? But there's kind of a clash between Chelsea and himself in terms of what the compensation would be, and are Chelsea holding out to save maybe? The talk is it could be 20 or 30 million. 20 or 30 million these days probably get you a reasonable player into your squad. Throw another 10 on it and you're probably looking at a decent player. So maybe they're thinking that way as well. But yeah, that was a I don't think it's an ego thing with him. I think he's just finding it difficult. I think it's he knows himself the job was a stretch and it was a step maybe too far. And I think there was a crisis meeting. I think they've both accepted where it is. And maybe there's an honesty there. Maybe he knows that his day is there unnumbered pending his European adventures. And even so, his days might be numbered anyway. I think Chelsea really do need to bring in like a real good high profile manager that can manage that dressing room and stuff like that. You know, there has to be a level of respect there and stuff like that. And we've seen in the past it can get toxic. Ian back in the comments, for all David Moyes is probably going through dementia. He's always trying to find himself. Don't think that's the case at all, Ian. David Moyes is a very, very good manager. He's been around football a long, long time now. Did a stellar job at Everton, maintaining their Premier League status and also bringing them up to some dizzy heights at times, and also fended off a couple of relegation battles. David Moyes is a highly accomplished coach, and a lot of people would feel he was very hard done by at United. But again, it's a case of coaches tend to find their level, And just because you're not managing Liverpool or Man United or Chelsea or Barcelona or Real Madrid doesn't mean you're not a top level coach. But yeah, an interesting one. Let's talk about some topical points. We spoke about Potter and the pressure on him after the Spurs game. We spoke about Liverpool being so blunt and the stalemate against Palace. The interesting one with the Glazers coming out the other day, there was a lot of talk about this. The Qatari bid has gone in, Jim Ratcliffe's bid has gone in. Both interesting, contrasting bids from what we've read and what we've listened to. Then the talk came out the other day, Avram Glazer stating that he might not necessarily want to sell Man United, and this is the scalding water getting poured on the Man United fan base, and talking about how he has an emotional connection with Man United. And I'm a Liverpool fan, and I even scoffed at that and said, get the fuck out of here, man. An emotional connection with Man United. You've rallied them up to their ears on debt. You've mismanaged the club from a personnel point of view for years and stuff like that. And you've sat back and let what's unfolded for the last decade. And I just think to turn around and talk about having that emotional, these guys have emotional connections to money. And Man United is money. And the one thing I said at the start of all this takeover talk about Man United and Liverpool, one, it was very strange that both clubs were potentially put up for sale at the same time. We've never seen anything in our history, and we certainly would not see it again, not in our history or in our kids' history, to see two powerful world global brands and clubs like Man United and Liverpool up for sale. And we're hearing that with Man United as now, maybe they're looking at an investment opportunity. There's a hedge fund in America wants to potentially put an investment into Man United somewhere in the region of 2 billion. I think was the number, and that was potentially to be used for the redevelopment of Old Trafford, and also potentially, I presume, to create a new training facility either at Carrington or a new training facility somewhere. Plus other stuff as well, I'd imagine. I can't imagine that all costing 2 billion, although maybe depending on what the development of Old Trafford is. But this was an interesting conundrum. It was the Glazers really talking absolute nonsense, absolutely irate at the Man United fan base. The talk from the fan base, that the thoughts of the Glazers being still involved, and that investment, pending on how it's handled and how it's accounted for, rallying up and ratcheting up the debt even more. And I suppose looking at the Premier League and the FA and stuff like that, would they look at that situation as well? We know that United are carrying somewhere in the region about maybe 600-700 million in debt that they're servicing and stuff like that. And then it's how you account for this 2 billion going in there as well, and what way that would be accounted for through your books and your balance sheets and stuff like that as well. And what effect potentially that would have on United going forward. Certainly would be an interesting conversation, but it's always the way, isn't it? Just when you think you're going to kind of get what you want, unbelievable investment, maybe ambitious owners. And then I suppose the fear with the Qatari bid is that once the Qatar bid, if that was accepted and that went in there, in 10 years' time or 20 years' time, what happens then? They're not likely to sell it. They're looking continually, those Middle Eastern countries, they're looking to move into the West all the time, assimilate into the West all the time. We've seen it with PSG, we've seen it with Man City, we've seen it with Newcastle, we've seen it with various other entities and stuff like that. So yeah, but this could be, worst case scenario for Man United fans again, who just have such an insatiable appetite to see the Glazers out the door for what they've done at United. But to hear that the other day, this emotional connection with the club, and then potentially looking at an investment coming in from a hedge fund in America as opposed to a sale of the club and stuff like that, was just craziness to say the least. Let's take some comments. Henry, I agree, Niall. I think it's just not gelling at the moment for Moyes. Yeah, it's not, but I mean, that was a great result at the weekend for them, and they do have players there that are capable of doing it. For all we know, Dave Moyes, I think I read that one already. I went in again for some reason. Morris back in. I think Eric Ten Hag has been the best manager since Fergie. I take the League Cup over finishing second, third, or lower any day of the week. Um, yeah, I don't know. With the impact of the Champions League money and all is huge. I know you want a trophy in the cabinet, you want to win some silverware and stuff like that. But there's also a bigger picture thing there as well in terms of investment. You want to be in the Champions League. You want to attract a certain ilk of player. You want to have the finances available through that. Because remember, there's a huge knock-on effect for this. It's not just the money you gain through the Champions League. It's the money you gain from your sponsors. It's the bonus you gain from those contracts and all that kind of stuff. So I know people sometimes talk about 150 million, a 200 million, a 300 million race in the Champions League. I think sometimes it's much bigger than that and stuff like that. And if you have those funds available to you to invest in your squad and in your players, I think that's absolutely massive. You can't, and I know, Morris, because you're an Arsenal fan as well, and Wenger all the time talking about top four being like a trophy and all that history that goes with it and stuff like that. But the way the financial situation has changed within football clubs and in the market and stuff like that, that money is crucial. You'll see it next year with us. We will, if we don't make top four, let's wait and see what the kickback will be. Henry back in. I'm sure Real or PSG will try and get Rashford. They can try, but it depends on what the sale of the club goes like and if it happens and stuff like that and all. But I don't think Rashford's going to go anywhere. I think he's very happy with what he sees at the moment. He's going to be a huge part of Man United over X amount of years. He's pivotal to their success. You can see when he's switched on and he's happy and he's positive and he's injury free. He's a sensational player. And under Ten Hag, he's only going to get better and better and better because with that boy, we always believed there was confidence. There was no lack of skill and ability and stuff like that. It's the confidence to have a guy managing you who believes in you and puts you into those right moments and explains to you at the right time how big a player you are and how big you are in his plans and stuff like that. Solskjaer always just sounded like a teammate, to be honest. Let's talk about something that's a little bit controversial. We don't steer away from controversy on this show, as you know. But it came out the other day there that Mason Greenwood will become a father quite soon. They're talking about in the summertime or something like that. So let's keep this clean now in the chat, guys, if you want to chat about it, because it's an interesting one that I want to talk about just for a number of levels, really. But it would mean that the baby was conceived while he was out on bail and he had made contact with the victim in relation to the allegations that were there. So he would have been in direct violation of his bail conditions. But the bigger issue here sends a message out to the victims of these sexual abuse crimes and stuff like that, and what can happen and stuff like that. And really, when I heard about this the other day, I was kind of thinking about those people. But I was also thinking as well about this was spaced out over a year. And I was thinking about all the legal time that was wasted, all the court time that was wasted, all the police investigation time that was wasted and stuff like that. And I was thinking, should this be looked at again, or is this something that just gets swept away? I don't mean in terms of the allegations. I mean in terms of what happened and stuff like that. And we now know and we can see why the charges were dropped and a case couldn't be taken because of maybe something like this that they knew about. But also we can see why Man United are quite hesitant in relation to the boy coming back into play football, and they want to carry out their own investigation, a thorough investigation that they believe will take until the summer. So he wouldn't be coming back in this season anyway. But let us know your thoughts. I think it's an impossible situation for him to go back into Man United. I think even knowing this now and what's happened and stuff like that shines an even poorer light on the situation, really. But my thoughts on the situation really go out to victims of sexual abuse and stuff like that when they see stuff like this and the way it's evolved and how it's happened and stuff like that. It's not good, and they're my thoughts on it. Morris in the comments, very strange what has went on with this couple. Toxic. Yeah, absolutely. It's the weirdest thing ever, but just such a waste of the waste of resources there in relation to this when afterwards you feel like if you think about it, if the baby is coming in the summer, it was probably conceived in September, October time, and it's after running on till January before it was shelved. So you would assume that there was police people and resources deployed to this, still investigating it, all this kind of thing and stuff like that. And they must feel now like they've been played like fools and stuff like that. And I think there should be some ramifications in relation to this when you see this coming out, not in relation to the original charges and stuff like that. But I just think it's absolutely crazy the way it was handled and stuff like that. High profile manager, maybe high. He looks at times, yeah, he's good, but no Alex Ferguson diagnosis. No, not at all, Ian. Silly stuff there, mate. There's not too many managers in stand up to Alex Ferguson, and certainly the drop off down to David Moyes coming in to take over him was a huge drop off. The last thing I want to finish with is lawyers at the moment are considering threatening UEFA with legal action. This is in relation to the report that came out surrounding the Champions League final last June. The treatment of Liverpool fans and stuff like that. They're now seeking compensation in relation to how things were handled and stuff like that and what evolved on the day of the Champions League final. And there hasn't been really a response yet from the French FA and UEFA and all that kind of stuff. It was very clear beforehand that the location wasn't as suitable as it should be, and the due diligence was horrendous to say the least. And it took a bit of time as well to admit to all this stuff when they were carrying out their slur campaign against Liverpool fans and all this kind of stuff that went on. But now it's time to pony up. And it looks like that they don't have an appetite for this. So it looks like this could go down the legal route. And of course, we support the fans in that as always. It was horrific looking at what was going on there last June. And because of our history, Liverpool, our history as a club and stuff like that, it's very easy to go, oh, it's just those Liverpool fans again, but it wasn't this time. If you remember, back when we spoke about it at the time, I mean, there was friends and family of players and everything involved in this. There was tear gas, there was rubber bullets, there was all sorts of stuff going on. There was people there trying to rob people of tickets. You seen the abuse that they got. There was attacks. The whole thing was an absolute shambles from start to finish. Yeah, I absolutely agree with you there, Henry. Dementia, I've been touched with it myself through my own family and stuff like that. It is a serious illness and there's nothing funny about it. Absolutely not. Don't mind me, bro. Just a bit of banter. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so that's kind of what I'm finishing with there. UEFA lawyers threatening to lawyer up to seek compensation for these fans that were affected at the Champions League final last year. So we'll watch it and we'll continue to see how it evolves. But certainly an interesting one. Folks, that's it. Another Monday mashup in the bag. Another round of Premier League fixtures. Another trophy for Man United. The Carabao Cup trophy. Let's see what happens this week. Some big games coming up. Like I said, I did a preview for the Wolves game. You get match reactions up there. We're also dropping shorts on a daily basis. Morris is in. Absolutely scandalous what went on there. 100%. And Morris, we seen it a number of years earlier when the rugby was there as well. It was the exact same fiasco. And Morris is going, what? And Henry, for stream, Niall, good night and all. Yeah, Henry, stick with it, man. Remember what we spoke about earlier. Don't play into any of that kind of stuff. Continue to produce your content. Continue to get your message out there. That's what we all love on these podcasts and on these channels. Our views, our raw views of how we feel about things and stuff like that. Just because it doesn't agree with other people's views, it never means that you're wrong. And just block it out, man. Funny thing, Henry, I always say to people as well is if you're receiving that level of kind of stuff and things like that, it actually means you're doing something right. It actually means you're doing something right. So stick with it and keep it going. Morris, corruption. Night, lads. Absolutely. Night to everyone. Thank you to everyone in the chat. Really appreciate your company on these Monday nights on these shows. Without you guys, the shows would be quite empty. Love the chat in there as always. Support all the channels that are in there. You've seen them there. We've big football week coming up. We've a double header against Wolves and against Man United. It's going to be a massive week for the Reds and for Man United. Big games coming up as well. I think Arsenal face Everton as well in the league. That's going to be a big one as well. We'll see how the league pans out. We will be back on Thursday night with Thursday Tier Talk. Me and Dazzler will be on your screens. We'll be talking football. We'll be doing previews, beat the bookie. Everything will be coming at you Thursday night. You'll also catch me, I think, Wednesday night on Dynamo's Dozen channel. We're going to be doing a live show talking about pro wrestling, all the latest news, a look back in history, and all that kind of good stuff as well. Eno's in us again. Watch and support all the football podcasts, and all the channels. And Morris, Arsenal game in hand on Wednesday. Huge game. Expect you to beat the Toffees, Morris. Lay it on them again. Keep that run going. And in good night, fellas. Love you all. Love to everyone in the chat. Have a very safe week. We will see you on Thursday. And always, you'll never walk alone.